Игоревича Богданова. Андрея Георгиевича Лопухова, директора Департамента лингвистического обеспечения Министерства иностранных дел России. Госпожу Флорику Финк-Хойер, генерального директора Генерального директората устного перевода Еврокомиссии. Госпожу Сесилию Элиcальде, директора отдела документации штаб-квартиры ООН в Нью-Йорке. Господина Ноэля Мюлля, наверное, многие из вас его уже знают, потому что он у нас уже бывал гостем нашей конференции. Ноэль Мюлль, почетный генеральный директор Еврокомиссии и почетный вице-президент Санкт-Петербургской высшей школы перевода. Приветствую! И приглашаю сюда нашего гостя Миклоша Бана. Он приехал к нам из Венгрии, но он представляет здесь Европейский союз ассоциаций переводческих компаний. А сейчас слово для приветствия и для открытия нашего форума, который сегодня открывается в стенах Российского государственного педагогического университета в городе Санкт-Петербурге, университета им.Герцена, известным своими традициями подготовки переводчиков, я предоставляю Сергею Игоревичу Богданову, ректору.
Глубоко уважаемые коллеги, дорогие друзья, прежде всего, огромное спасибо за то, что мы с вами сегодня здесь вместе. Это очень важно. И заниматься мы будем очень важным для нашего коллективного существования делом. Я, как филолог, прекрасно понимаю, что в этом зале собрались счастливые люди. Действительно счастливые люди. Потому что если кроме своего родного языка ты понимаешь, чувствуешь, любишь ресурс другого языка, а может быть даже и нескольких языков, то ты, безусловно, по-другому видишь мир. Видишь его гораздо более глубоко, видишь его гораздо более содержательно. Можешь воздействовать на этот мир с гораздо большей эффективностью. И практически все здесь присутствующие могут это делать. И огромное вам спасибо за то, что этим своим счастьем, этим ресурсом вы делитесь с другими людьми. На самом деле от вас очень и очень многое зависит. Для нас огромная честь, радость и большая ответственность принимать на территории нашего университета, одного из старейших вузов России, юбилейную 10-ю конференцию. Мне кажется, что это глубоко не случайно. Не случайно по нескольким обстоятельствам. Во-первых, все вы знаете замечательный проект, который бы не состоялся без всех вас здесь присутствующих, который называется «Высшая школа перевода Герценского университета». Действительно, уже 11 лет работает этот проект, и действительно, без вашей помощи, без вашего участия он не был бы столь эффективен. Второй очень важный момент. В этом году, в июне месяце, мы открыли интересный, ответственный проект, который называется «Педагогические сезоны». Мы открыли кампус городу, соединились с городом и с его гостями. С начала июня до сегодняшнего дня на территории открытого кампуса нашего университета, расположенного в самом центре города, прошло более 200 мероприятий для детей, для их родителей, для учителей, для школьников, для людей с ограниченными возможностями, кстати, и для тех, кто занимается переводом. Действительно большое дело мы можем сделать только вместе. И поэтому сегодняшнее мероприятие воплощает ту самую логику, которой мы руководствовались, открывая наш кампус города. Ну и, наконец, третий момент. Уже в третий раз параллельно с вашей конференцией проходит студенческий форум. И это позволяет нам с уверенностью сказать, что это юбилей далеко не последний, и надеюсь, что так будет всегда. Еще раз огромное вам спасибо. Все от себя зависящее для того, чтобы ваша работа была бы эффективной, мы обязательно сделаем. Спасибо вам.
Сергей Игоревич, в подтверждение ваших слов о том, как тесно вы работаете с городом, я хочу пригласить на эту сцену буквально на 2 слова, чтобы поздравить нашу конференцию, Юлию Васильевну Пилипчук, которая представляет Санкт-Петербургское информационно-туристическое бюро, мэрию города Санкт-Петербурга.
Участники, гости, организаторы, уважаемые спикеры, благодарю вас за приглашение. Хочу сказать, что мы очень рады, что именно юбилейный форум проходит в Санкт-Петербурге. На мой взгляд, переводческая деятельность и сфера туризма, которую я представляю, имеют тесную взаимосвязь. Ведь именно с переводчиками, с гидами-переводчиками работают туристы, которые приезжают в Санкт-Петербург. Именно благодаря качеству перевода туристы получают достоверную, интересную информацию о городе, его возможностях, потенциале, инфраструктуре. В 2019 году Санкт-Петербург стал лидирующим городским направлением в Европе по версии популярной премии World Travel Awards. В прошлый год в Санкт-Петербург приехало более 8 миллионов туристов, из них 4,3 это иностранцы. И мы считаем, что именно благодаря деятельности как переводчиков, так и гидов-переводчиков, с которыми мы тесно работаем, наши гости получают благоприятное впечатление от города и хотят сюда вернуться вновь и вновь. Я хочу пожелать сегодня всем участникам плодотворной работы, интересных идей и, конечно же, приятного пребывания в Санкт-Петербурге. Погода радует, последние летние деньки, я думаю, не случайно. И я надеюсь, что вы с удовольствием и с пользой проведете время в Санкт-Петербурге. Спасибо и всем сегодня успехов.
Спасибо. Спасибо, Юлия Васильевна. А сейчас мы продолжаем наш открывающий блок, нашу открывающую сессию, нашу открывающую церемонию. И я с большим удовольствием и благодарностью передаю слово Андрею Георгиевичу Лопухову, который представляет здесь Министерство иностранных дел России.
Сердечно приветствую всех присутствующих здесь в зале с открытием очередной отраслевой конференции, которую в этом году принимает у себя Герценский государственный педагогический университет. С большим удовольствием передаю организаторам и участникам этого знаменательного мероприятия привет и наилучшие пожелания от министра иностранных дел Российской Федерации Сергея Игоревича Богданова. Уверены, что конференция станет важным событием для современной лингвистики, придаст новый импульс укреплению международных связей в этой области. Форум, собравший сегодня представителей лучших российских и зарубежных переводческих школ, лингвистических подразделений ООН и Европейской комиссии, преподавателей, студентов и вчерашних выпускников, предоставляет прекрасную возможность обменяться опытом и накопленными знаниями, актуализировать этические нормы и отраслевые стандарты, совместно изучить действующие механизмы и инструменты развития сферы переводческих услуг. Перевод в современном мире с каждым годом приобретает все большую значимость. Обусловлено это прежде всего стремительным развитием коммуникационных технологий. Сегодня все мы являемся свидетелями резкого увеличения скорости обмена объема информации как на межличностном, так и межгосударственном уровне. Наблюдается небывалая активизация межгосударственных контактов, расширение взаимодействия в рамках международных и региональных объединений. Постоянно возрастает потребность в обмене научно-техническими знаниями между разными странами. Быстрыми темпами увеличивается объем мировой торговли, дипломатической и консульской активности, развиваются культурные связи, массовый характер приобретает международный туризм. В этом контексте как никогда остро стоит задача обеспечения полного и достоверного перевода. Трудно переоценить всю ответственность, которая лежит на современных переводчиках. Являясь своеобразным интерфейсом между культурами и проводниками новых знаний, они впитывают в себя самые разные информационные и эмоциональные сигналы и в то же время представляют собой своего рода мягкую силу, способную поддерживать и транслировать то, что в условиях непростой международной обстановки чрезвычайно важно для благополучия всего мира. Неоспорим тот факт, что перевод как ремесло и искусство играет важную роль в сближении народов, содействует диалогу, взаимопониманию и сотрудничеству, обеспечению развития и укрепления международного мира и безопасности. Соответственно, все более повышаются требования, предъявляемые не только к переводу и его качеству, но и к самим переводчикам. Современные лингвисты – это не только тот, кто изучил иностранный язык, менталитет и традиции его носителей, но и тот, кто разбирается, если не во всем, то во многом. События исторической важности, политические тонкости, нюансы взаимоотношений государств на разных этапах их развития, термины из различных областей общественной и политической жизни далеко не весь перечень знаний, которыми должен обладать профессиональный переводчик. Сегодня в основе успеха подготовки высококвалифицированных специалистов в области перевода должны лежать сочетание прочных традиций с новыми подходами к обучению этой профессии, энтузиазм и творческая самоотдача преподавателя. В условиях стремительного развития искусственного интеллекта сейчас на помощь переводчику приходят соответствующие кибертехнологии, которыми он также должен уметь грамотно пользоваться. Компьютерные программы во многом оптимизируют и облегчают труд переводчика. Вместе с тем, в выполнении переводов эмоционально окрашенных, художественных, сложных, технических, важнейших международно-правовых и политических материалов им пока сложно конкурировать с людьми. Поэтому важно придерживаться золотой середины при задействии человека и машины в переводческой сфере. Говоря о значимости перевода в современных международных отношениях, нельзя не отметить такую важную задачу, как укрепление и продвижение принципа многоязычия. Чем глубже процессы глобализации проникают во все сферы нашей жизни, тем более актуальной становится проблема сохранения историко-культурной идентичности и самобытности различных народов. Поэтому принцип многоязычия, как существенный компонент культурного разнообразия, был закреплен в Конвенции ООН об охране и поощрении разнообразия форм культурного самовыражения. Он является важным фактором гармоничного общения между народами, способствует укреплению международного мира и безопасности, защите прав человека. Россия, являясь многонациональной страной и государством одного из 6 официальных языков ООН, планомерно выступает за сохранение и поощрение многоязычия. Министерство иностранных дел переводу уделяется особое внимание. Работа нашего направления – предмет неусыпного контроля министра иностранных дел. Департамент лингвистического обеспечения МИД России, который я возглавляю, является подразделением, выполняющим переводы для высшего руководства нашей страны, проводит большую практическую работу по поиску и отбору наиболее талантливых и способных студентов переводческих факультетов, в том числе и для дальнейшего трудоустройства в министерстве. С удовольствием отвечу, что мы плодотворно сотрудничаем, и у нас сложились прочные связи со многими профильными российскими вузами, представителей которых я видел в этом зале, прежде всего это МГИМО, МГЛУ, им.ГУ Ломоносова, Каспийская высшая школа перевода Астраханского государственного университета, ну и, конечно же, Санкт-Петербургская школа перевода на базе РГПУ им.Герцена. Именно эти учебные заведения являются в последнее время основными поставщиками переводчиков для Министерства иностранных дел. Многие из них успешно трудятся в центральном аппарате и загранучреждениях МИД, в ООНовских структурах и других международных организациях, осуществляя качественный перевод различных международных мероприятий, в том числе на самом высоком уровне с участием президента Российской Федерации. В рамках взаимодействия с вузами ежегодно проводим в департаменте стажировки для студентов, организовываем выездные мастер-классы наших опытных переводчиков, присутствуем на государственных аттестационных экзаменах, возможности принимаем участие в отраслевых форумах, конференциях. Твердо настроены на дальнейшее укрепление этих взаимовыгодных контактов, развитие сотрудничества в сфере подготовки будущих переводчиков. Поддерживаем предпринимаемые российскими языковыми вузами шаги в области подготовки переводчиков для служб русского перевода ООНовских и других международных структур. Это в значительной степени способствует их своевременной комплектации высококвалифицированными специалистами. В данной связи стоит выделить подписанные МГИМО, МГЛУ, МГУ имени Ломоносова и РГПУ имени Герцена меморандумы о сотрудничестве с ООН. В рамках этих документов студенты этих университетов проходят специальное обучение для сдачи ООНовских квалификационных экзаменов, дистанционные стажировки в соответствии с ООНовскими требованиями. Особо хотелось бы отметить важность регулярного проведения международных отраслевых конференций, которые представляют своим участникам уникальную возможность для открытого и равностороннего профессионального общения, обсуждения широкого круга вопросов будущего переводческой профессии, обмена опытом между экспертами отрасли и начинающими специалистами, продвижения современных обучающих методик и формирования высочайших стандартов подготовки молодых специалистов. Форум, который открывается сегодня, несомненно, также будет способствовать профессиональному росту и расширению кругозора представителей переводческого сообщества. От всей души желаю участникам и гостям продуктивной и творческой работы, интересных встреч и дискуссий. Спасибо.
Спасибо большое, Андрей Георгиевич. Для продолжения темы многоязычия я предоставляю слово Флорике Финк-Хойер.
Thank you, and good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear students, representatives of the city, but also a big hello to the interpreters. We don't see you, but we hear you. And I'm very grateful that we can, because otherwise I would not be able to communicate with you and with the colleagues on the podium. Now, I'm obviously very pleased and very honored to be here in this very beautiful setting of the Hudson University, but also to be invited, and I really like to thank the rector, Sergei Bogdanov, but also my friend and colleague, Angelique Antonova, who's here among us as well, for having given me the opportunity to speak to you today about multilingualism. Multilingualism as a hallmark of the European Union. And we already heard how important multilingualism is also for Russia. Now, where could I speak about culture and languages better than here in the cultural city and capital of St. Petersburg? A city which has been home to most of the most famous global writers, a home that has been the setting of some of the most cherished works and pieces of literature, and a town which has inspired and continues to inspire so much European cultural developments as well. So thank you for that. Thank you. But allow me first to say perhaps first a few words about myself to introduce myself, because I'm heading the Department for Interpretation and Conference Management in the European Commission, which is a part of the European Union, an institution. And my colleagues provide interpretation to not only the European Commission, but also to all the entities, the bodies, agencies, which together form the European Union, except for our court and the parliament, because they have their own interpretation service. But if you want, my colleagues are behind the scenes contributing very closely to the decision-making and taking at political level, which forges the European Union. And we are quite proud of that. And therefore, multilingualism is very important for us, because we are a unity, a union composed of 28 member states with 24 different languages. So without multilingualism and without interpretation and translation, it would be difficult for us to speak with one common voice. But that's what we do. And that's why we have invested heavily in big interpretation and translation services. But we not only communicate in the 24 languages of the EU, but also obviously in the languages of our global partners, therefore also in Russia and with Russia. That's also why we have contributed since quite some time, since 2008 actually, in a cooperation and capacity building with the Hessen University, and much more particular with the School for Interpretation and Translation, headed by my friend Angelique. And we are very proud because SCIT, as it is called, we are called SCIT, they are called SCIT, has become a center of excellence. Already since 11 years, you do so. And in linguist communication, a quality label counts, very much so. And you have earned the highest quality label because you're part of what we would call the European Master of in European Master of Conference Interpreting. But for us, multilingualism means we also contribute to international cooperation, better mutual understanding, people-to-people contacts. And in this case, and we already heard that from the colleague from the Russian Foreign Ministry, it's in a way bringing also a contribution to creation of a very peaceful society, and it's about creating mutual respect, because if you don't understand each other, you cannot respect each other. And interpretation is very transnational per se, obviously, right? And we just heard, and was very pleased to hear that as well, how much Russia is valuing the importance of interpretation as a very important part of diplomacy and also of geopolitics. And that's the same for the European Union. So for my Directorate General, as I'm heading, we are very pleased to contribute to multilingualism, but what does it really mean? Because we just heard we are in an ever globalized, ever mobile, ever interconnected society, right? And that's not just means tourism or trade or economics. It also means, for instance, a lot of people are on the move today. Some forced, some voluntarily. So immigration flows, but also international mobility as such, has created a societal factor where multilingualism is needed. And social media as well. And I couldn't agree more with what was just said. Digitalization is not making interpretation redundant. On the contrary, it even gives new impetus, new momentum, and actually new opportunities for multilingualism, but also for linguist professionals. So I think we should cherish that. But languages or linguism is not just about a tool of communication. For each of us, I suppose, a language represents your own personal national identity. It is about your culture, about your geography, about your history, and very often it's the expression of your very soul, the soul of a nation. And that's the same for the European Union, right? And we have a motto which is called unity in diversity. Unity because we try to speak with one voice, but diversity because we are composed of 28 member states with, as I said, the 24 languages. So Europe is not only about uniformity, and it is a concept, this unity in diversity, which rhymes actually very well with also our national identities and national politics, because it is the sum that makes of this diversity which makes us so unique. Now, as I don't have a picture, you have to wait for me because I have to turn my page. As I said, it enables us to search for speaking with a common voice. Now, what does it really mean, multilingualism? I would like just to give you a few pointers, a few reflections which go beyond this we contribute to the decision-making and taking. And the first one is multilingualism and multiculturalism. Because as I said, diversity is very much a part of our value framework. This is enshrined in our legal setting, in our treaties. And we believe that by defending multilingualism, we're also defending multiculturalism, and actually also defending a pluralistic society. It helps us to value the large diversity of our own cultures and identities, including of civil society. So in today's politics, we all know now, we have a little bit of heated debate, we have sometimes polarism, we have populism. Also our own interpreters, my colleagues, they notice that when they're interpreting our political debates. It's sometimes a bit heated. And it's difficult for them because they cannot sugarcoat what is said. They are professional ethic, means they have to say directly what the other one has said, otherwise we cannot advance in our political discourse. But it means also sometimes it can hurt, it is difficult, this discourse, but it can also forge unity. It also can forge, give optimism, empowerment. But I often say that my colleagues are a little bit often like canaries in the mine because they pick up the change in tone. Now, another reflection is multilingualism and multilateralism. You probably know that the European Union is a very strong defender of multilateralism, and we really do believe in it, and therefore we also are authorized to cooperate, as I said, very much with our third country partners. We do so with China, with Macau, with Russia, but also with Cuba and others. And we do so because we think interpretation is part of softer diplomacy, and it helps our leaders to literally better understand the other leaders. So multilingualism and multilateralism for us goes very much hand in hand. And we think it helps as an enabler to forge meaningful development aid. Also it helps in effective humanitarian aid, and it can be quite crucial if you are in crisis management. Because when you have the same language or linguistic affiliations, when you speak the same language, you have a trust and a trust builder, and that helps to support each other better. Now, let me come to a third concept, which is multilingualism and its importance in the communication with our own citizens. What does it mean? We have 500 million citizens in the European Union, and each of them is entitled, that's legally enshrined, to communicate in her or his language with the European Union institutions, but also we are obliged to communicate in his or her language back. That's why we need multilingualism. But we also believe that multilingualism and speaking in the language of our citizen is quite an enabler to a participatory democracy. It helps us to legitimize our politics and our union, because if you do not understand what is being done, it is very difficult. And I will not hide that we also face issues. because sometimes we are lazy and we retreat just to English. I do today, but I don't speak Russian, I'm sorry. But it can be perceived as, oh, this is a bureaucracy far away, speaking an elitist language. So we have to be very conscious of continuing very much in driving forward multilingualism in whatever we do when we speak to business, to national administration, but also to the citizen. Because as our president said, good policy making needs good multilingual communication to be understood and owned. That's quite important. Now, a fourth consideration, multilingualism and international organizations. In May of this year, the European Union hosted a very big conference, which was the annual gathering of the heads of services of all the linguistic and conference or publication services of about 50 international organizations, including the UN, and I know that there are some colleagues here who were there as well and who participated. Now, we had very fruitful discussions, but we talked about everything which a linguist nowadays is concerned about, very much about artificial intelligence, digitalization, data governance very much, but also speech to text, innovative ways of management, and inclusive communication as well. We'll hear about this later today. But one of the biggest outcomes of this conference was that a statement that we adopted on multilingualism. It's actually called the Brussels Statement on Multilingualism. And it does herald the multilingual communication as an important enabler into multilateralism, as I already said, and to support a rules-based global order. In this declaration, we also recognize that multilingualism is a tool to help the members of the different organizations to understand each other. So it's about trust building again, but also again to speak to the stakeholders, the citizens of this world who are to be either represented or working with these international organizations. Now, obviously, we adopted this statement in 24 languages of the European Union, but also in the 6 languages of the UN, so also in Russian. And if you want, you can Google this statement on multilingualism when you go on Europa website or on what we have now created, the Knowledge Center for Interpretation. There, if you just put that in, and you will come across the Russian version or the multilingual version of this statement. So you see, it is not a hollow concept. Multilingualism is really lived in the European Union. It does matter for us. It is a hallmark. It is also a responsibility which is shared not only at the, let's say, level of the Union institutions, but also at national level, at regional level, at local level. Because, after all, it's really reflecting our diverse, as I said, but also pluralistic society, our multiple identities that have Europe as a common denominator, but also shared history and a common destiny and future. Now, at the end, let me also share a more personal anecdote, perhaps. Because I've been a few times to Russia, but the most east I ever went was to Yakutsk. And from there I even traveled on further in very little plane to a village of indigenous people. And there were 2 issues that really marked me. The first, and that's not astonishing, but the first is the enormous, warm and great hospitality of the Russian people. That really marked me wherever I went. And I experienced that yesterday, also thanks to Dr. Bogdanov and Angelique. And it's a very special feature of Russia. But the second thing that really struck me was, wherever I went, from Moscow to Yakutsk, I was welcomed in Russian. And I think that's fantastic. That's very unique. That's a huge advantage for you. And when I reflected about it, I then also realized that yes, you have Russian as your national official language, but you have also 35 other official languages. These are the languages of the respective, let's say, republics of Russia, which are also alongside Russian spoken. And then, like in the European Union, you also have many minority languages on top. So all of that makes a very rich tapestry of languages also here in Russia. So I think you have multilingualism as well, and you can be very proud of that. Now, I'm very happy to see so many young people in this room. And all of you will be, in one way or another, interested in languages, I suppose. Some of you might become interpreters, I hope. Some might become translators, philologists, or, as I said, you become a linguist in tech or in a digital environment. Think about what would multilingualism mean for you? What does it represent? Whatever is your answer, I would really encourage you, use your talents, use your opportunities, and embrace multilingualism. I would like to thank everybody for the attention, but I would also wish the organizer a very fruitful and successful conference and very good discussions over the next days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Спасибо большое, Флорика Финк-Хойер. И сейчас, вы все знаете, что технологии так или иначе врываются в нашу жизнь, и они кого-то сметают, а кого-то захватывают. И помогают очень во многом. И сейчас я хотела бы передать слово. Мы все учимся, мы все обмениваемся информацией. Я хотела бы передать слово Сесилии Элиcальде, которая расскажет нам о том, как новые технологии меняют профиль переводчика с точки зрения Организации Объединенных Наций.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Herzen University for allowing me this fantastic opportunity to address this audience, but also for allowing me to visit this wonderful city. This is my first time in Russia, and I'm really astonished. And I'm saying this very truly. It gives me a huge opportunity to have a deeper understanding of Russian culture, which is fantastic. And the highlight so far, because I have been 2 days, has been the Russian Museum. It has been amazing for me. Thank you very much. So I am a director at the United Nations. My service is the documentation division, which is the translation services, the written translation part of the United Nations, not the interpretation services that belong to another division. So I'm going to address you, discuss with you about the challenges of the translation profession in translation in the written part. First of all, you know that the United Nations has 6 official languages: Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. And that recently, a few years ago, we had a resolution by the General Assembly highlighting the role of professional translation in fostering peace, first of all, understanding and development. But also in this resolution, which is quite unusual, I mean, not all the professions in the United Nations have a resolution from the General Assembly. One of the highlights was about the quality and excellence in doing our job. So this resolution that is available for you to read, which is Resolution 71/288 of the United Nations, is a resolution that also promotes the celebration of International Translation Day on 30th of September, in a month more or less, and which was a celebration that was already promoted by the associations of translators, but now it has also the endorsement of the United Nations. My department, which is the department that serves the General Assembly and the Security Council in translation needs, is also a department that has the mandate of promoting multilingualism, and I think that Florika highlighted very eloquently what are the challenges and the opportunities of multilingualism and our role as translators in this. So my role, actually, my main role, as I said, in leading the translation services is to organize this team that in New York is about 600 people, and among those 600 people, 80 in the Russian translation service, 60 translators plus 20 support staff. And we have many graduates from this university, so I also would like to congratulate the authorities for these huge results, because it's very hard to get into the United Nations. It requires a blind examination, an anonymous examination that is international, and that takes a lot of skill to pass this exam. Myself, I am a Spanish translator originally. I'm from Uruguay, and I joined the UN in 2003 to this examination, to the language competitive examination, that I encourage you also to take in the future, which is a great opportunity to have an entry door to the UN organizations. So, but my main role for a while, it was to translate. But at some point, I realized, myself and other colleagues, that we needed to include technology in our working methods. So when I joined the UN, the way that translators work, it was through dictation. So there was first, when a document was to be translated, there was a team of what we called reference assistants, looking for all the past information, the background, the terminology, previous General Assembly resolutions, all the research part. Then translators started translating by dictating, and then a typist was typing the text, and translators were reviewing, revising by a senior reviser, and then the document was issued. But with technology and the introduction of technology, and especially a project that is called GText that I am leading, all this workflow, this way of working has dramatically changed. So now we have created a software that many, all the translators at the United Nations, in all the duty stations, but also in other organizations are using, and that is called ILUNA. ILUNA means Electronic Languages of the United Nations, and actually the name was given by a Russian translator through a competition to name this tool. And this tool, what it does, is a web-based tool, which is accessible through the internet, through a simple browser. What it does is that it research for translators automatically everything. So instead of having these large teams of people doing the research, now the tool, ILUNA, will look for all the previous documents, for the background terminology, so that we keep things consistently, but that will also provide machine translation. And for the perspective of the United Nations, probably you have already seen that in your life as translators, learning a new computer-assisted translation tool, a CAT tool, it requires quite a lot of effort. However, in ILUNA, because it was done by translators, it actually takes only 1 hour to learn, and it's a very, very powerful tool that we are very proud of. And just as an anecdote, the main team of developers who did that, because from the business side, we have translators providing ideas to build this tool in a collaborative manner, but from the development side, from the IT side, the majority of the team of developers we have are actually all Russian speakers and come from the Russian Federation. So this tool, ILUNA, and especially the machine translation component, has changed dramatically the way translators work. So not only we don't have anymore this team of people looking for information because the system can do that, but also we have shortened the length of time that's required for translators to acquire the very technical and complicated language of the United Nations. Well, in the past, it took 4 years to bring a translator into the ability to provide very quality translations in an independent manner without further revision. It used to take 4 years, now it's only taking 2 years. So we see that the machine is bringing a lot of efficiencies. We see that the machine brings a lot of quality. But then it poses us the question, what is the role of translators now, where we have these systems that are giving us all this information, and some translations that in many cases are very good already. So this is why we are rethinking the way we recruit people, the way we train our people to become excellent translators, as this General Assembly resolution asks us to do. And we have realized that basically there are 2 areas where we would like to develop our translators. And I'm sharing this with you because you are translators too, and maybe this will help you in your reflection for the future. The first one is that it's more and more important to be an expert in your own language. And I think that this is the main part. In keeping with multilingualism, it's really great to be able to speak English, which is, for instance, much more spoken than my own language, which is Spanish, so it serves as a lingua franca. But at the same time, it is extremely important for the own translators, because of our role in promoting understanding. It is extremely important that we are masters of our own language. And the other area where we are thinking that there is a huge need for translators to develop is in the specialization. In the past, it was mostly about knowing the language and some specialization, but now we are seeing that also having this added value of bringing more to what the machine is already providing through our own knowledge is an important part for the development of the United Nations translators. So another area where we are developing more and more is in the area of the terminology, which maybe some of you are also interested in developing a career in terminology. It's also a great way of promoting multilingualism, and also not having every new term only in English, but adapting it to our own local languages. In terms of terminology, I would like to share with you that we have the United Nations Terminology Database UN Term, which is available on the internet at unterm.un.org, and these you are Russian translators here and interpreters. There is, of course, because this is one of our official languages, there is a lot of terminology there in Russian. And I think that this is a tool that for the students and for practitioners might be useful, so to know what is the terminology in the event. So I think now that we are taking this approach of including one or more technology, and thinking about what is the role of translators in the future, how to prepare the new generations of translators, it is also important to understand the different composition that brings the new generations of translators here. I'm going to speak to you in my other capacity, which is the gender focal point of our department. And there is a strategy of the Secretary General of the United Nations on promoting gender parity. In the past, the Russian Translation Service was only composed by men. Now, the new generations of translators are mostly women. And we are seeing this as a very valuable way of bringing diversity and the issues of gender parity and gender equality and empowerment of women. But also, from the perspective of drafting, when we are translating, we are also developing new guidelines on how to write on a gender-inclusive way. The United Nations, through the promotion of the gender equality strategy of the Secretary General, we have issues the gender inclusive language guidelines that are also available on the internet, and that there is a chapter on how to use gender inclusiveness in Russian without having to change, the basic rules of the language, which is a way to promote inclusiveness, but also this excellence in terms of using the language. So I encourage you, if you are interested, also to have a look at that. So with that, I would like to thank you all for this invitation and to keep reflecting on how, as a translators, we can use technology to continue doing our work. What is the value that we can bring to systems that are becoming more and more better, and that are becoming better and more useful, and how to associate translation, technology, and how to continue building our main computer, which is our brain, and to develop these language skills that are the basis of our profession. Thank you very much.
Спасибо большое. И сейчас я хотела бы предоставить слово представителю еще одной международной организации, но уже с точки зрения бизнеса. Я приглашаю к микрофону господина Миклоша Бана, который представляет Европейский союз Ассоциации переводческих компаний. Пожалуйста.
Thank you very much. As you said, my esteemed colleagues here are representing public administration, academia. Closer. All right. Okay. So, all right. I hope the interpreters can hear me now. Like this. So, European institutions and the UN, and I'm supposed to be the voice of the business community. I was asked, ladies and gentlemen, to give an opening address as the Vice President of the European Union of Associations of Translation Companies. My name is Mikloš Ban, and in the next few minutes, as I said, I'm bringing you the voice of the European translation business world. First of all, I must also thank you for this invitation and the amazing hospitality that some of my colleagues have also been talking about. A confession, it's been a childhood dream for me to come to Russia. As a child, I was living on that side of the Iron Curtain where we learned Russian in school. That was over 30 years ago now, so my Russian is rather rusty, but I can still say spasibo. Second, I would like to deliver to you the greetings of the European Union of Associations of Translation Companies, basically a big, large hello from the European translation business world. Perhaps some of you do not know us, so let me just say a few words about the EU-ATC. So the EU-ATC consists of national associations of translation companies. So, for example, in my tiny small country that is smaller than the population of Moscow, we only have 16 translation company members in our national association. But those are the most respectable companies, and they represent about 2/3 of the Hungarian translation market. So whatever we do in our national association matters greatly nationally. It affects not only translation companies, but also everyone else in that ecosystem, from freelance translators to training institutions to technology vendors. Now, EU-ATC is an umbrella organization of national associations like the one in Hungary that I'm chair of. Currently, we have 23 countries represented. From Western Europe, we have Germany and France and the UK and the Netherlands. From the north, we have Sweden. I hope the chair of the Swedish Association is here with us today. Finland, Estonia. In the south, Italy and Spain and Portugal, and in the east, Poland and Hungary and Czechia and Slovakia and Romania and Croatia and Serbia and so on and so forth. So, by and large, EU-ATC covers Europe, if you will. These associations, national associations, consist of individual translation companies. About 640 of them, actually. So the National Association members, their member companies are about 640, which means that these companies employ thousands of people. Project managers, vendor managers, language engineers, in-house translators, salespeople, marketing people, people in administration. So thousands of people work for these companies. And also, these companies are connected, each of them, to hundreds of freelance translators, without whose work, obviously, our work would be entirely impossible. So, obviously, it's very hard to calculate, because one freelance translator could work for many companies, but I think it's safe to say that at the end of the day, these ecosystems surrounding the EU-ATC members are in the numbers of tens of thousands at the moment. The EU-ATC stands to represent this community, to protect and to lobby for its interests, also in the European institutions and elsewhere, to bring its players together, to exchange and share knowledge and best practices, from creating ISO standards to gathering and distributing information about our European language industry as a whole. And here comes the actual reason why I'm here. I've just said in the beginning that, by and large, the EU-ATC covers Europe. However, there are some countries in Europe which do not yet have a national association of translation companies. And actually, Russia happens to be such a country. So at this point, Russia does not have a proper nationwide association of translation companies. In a way, this is strange, because in many ways, Russia is one of the most mature language markets with lots of players and very senior companies at a very high maturity level, working for the largest and most translation buyers with the most complex needs. And yet, this is the case. There are clubs, there are beginnings, but not yet a full-fledged national associations. Leaders from language services companies, large and medium and small, have reached out to us, the EU-ATC, for cooperation, for support, for advice, and the EU-ATC answers. So that's why I'm here today. I'm here at Translation Forum Russia to talk to those of you who want to see beyond daily translation company needs and business, who have a larger, more generic, in a way more far-sighted goals than just the business goals of your company. I want to talk to those of you like Konstantin, mover and shaker. So I want to talk to those of you who want change for the better in the Russian language services market. All markets can do with change for the better. I think that Russia is no exception. So I'm here for 3 days to talk to those of you who have faith in this great community, this great language community, who believe in its capacity for self-regulation, who want to connect the Russian translation market and the Russian translation community to that of Europe. Those of you who feel this way, those of you are welcome to join us. I'm here to meet you, to talk to you, to help you organize. And I'm coming not only with this welcome speech, I'm also coming with an actual invitation to the EU-ATC, if you manage to form a national association. And I'm coming with practical advice and support material, a starter kit. So talk to me. Now, it is my firm belief that one of the most important criteria for a good opening speech is that it be short. So I'm not going to explain to you what a national association does or what the EU-ATC does. I will do so Sunday afternoon, for those of you, not for the faint of heart, but those of you who are brave and strong enough to stay here with us. I'm happy to tell you how it makes sense, how it makes actual business sense for a company to form a national association and work with us. But that's only happening on Sunday. So let me close my words by telling you that I arrived here in St. Petersburg on Wednesday morning. And since then, I've been walking this wonderful city, marveling at its rivers and bridges and buildings, and most of all, over this free spirit that you can feel so palpable everywhere here in the city. I'm thoroughly amazed. And I've been looking at old and new. My entire Wednesday afternoon, like my colleague who went to the Russian Museum, I went to the Hermitage. Again, childhood dream. I spent 5 hours there and I was totally blown away by this amazing world-class collection. And today, yesterday, I went to the art space Menajny, I hope you know it, to look at one of the best contemporary Russian art exhibition. I can warmly recommend it to everyone. So looking at old and new made me realize that this is precisely why I'm here. Yours is an amazing, grand culture, one of the largest in Europe. Your language is one of the largest in Europe. You have a business community, a language market that is really fizzy and buzzing with lots of language services companies, technology companies, some of the best minds in this industry, and a lot of entrepreneurial spirit. It's all here. So I think culturally, linguistically, and business-wise, Russia belongs to Europe. So, once again, I would like to extend a very warm greeting from the European language business community to you, and at the same time wish you a very useful and delightful conference. Спасибо.
Спасибо большое, Миклош, за теплые слова и пожелания. И сейчас я с большим удовольствием предоставляю слово я знаю, что это выступление будет сделано с большим вдохновением, и многих из вас зажжет. Я предоставляю слово большому, уже, смею надеяться, другу Translation Forum Russia, Ноэлю Мюллю. Пожалуйста, Ноэль.
I'm going to inspire you, but we are over time. Our excuse is going to the rector. But I wrote down a certain number of things that I wanted to tell you as an old fox in these jobs and as honorary vice president of SKIT, which is a pleasure and an honor for me here in Herzen. Rector Bogdanov, I want my money back. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, be assured nothing of the sort will happen here. But I only quote the words of the late Margaret Thatcher addressing herself to President Mitterrand in Dublin Castle in the late 70s, when Lady Thatcher asked for a reduction of the contribution of the United Kingdom in the global budget of the European Union. These simple words, not innocent, spoken by a Prime Minister, came as a surprise, of course, to all heads of state and government present at the summit, but also to those who had to translate them in public, and I was one of them. Words that appeared also in all newspapers and tabloids the day after, in a more or less friendly undertone. Prime ministers are looking for pocket money. The sentence was clear, the words were simple, but not innocent, of course. The tone was a bit menacing, given the context and the level of the meeting. This brings me to the somewhat provocative title of my short intervention, Behind the Words. That is, the cultural environment and the art of linguistic mediation performed by translators and interpreters operating on the most diverse levels of discussions and negotiations, were they technical, political, diplomatical, or as go-betweens helping business partners to come to agreements, but speaking different tongues, since not all of them are multilingual. And believe it or not, there is not a common global lingua franca replacing the intimacy, the tone and the mood of the mother tongue speaker. As my professor Danica Seleskovic at the Sorbonne used to say, thoughts, ideas, connections must not give in to languages. Languages should give in instead to thoughts and ideas. So, to students who ask me, what language should I learn to operate on the labor market of communication, I would gladly answer, learn your mother tongue. Fine-tune it, make it shine, accurate, precise, elegant, and convincing. And you will gain the confidence of your clients, readers, listeners on your side, and serve them with elegance, and they will drop their tendency to use some broken language to be understood, and that might be English, it might be French or Spanish for that matter, but blurred with terminology of a non-native speaker, lacking shade and nuance of the arguments they might have with their partners, leading to misunderstandings, losing punching power and even business contracts. Translation and interpreting, call it language mediation, is indeed not about words you learned in a dictionary. It is about transferring meaning, mood and tone, influenced by and depicting an environment behind the words. Stop the producers of lateral translations, who by rendering every word weaken the meaning and kill the spirit of the text. This quote goes back to 1734 to Voltaire in his magnus opus, Lettres philosophiques. So we are in good company today, ladies and gentlemen, aren't we? The linguistic mediator operating in a multilingual canvas needs agility in wording and an extended register combining precision of the mood and the tone of the gathering and the client, and if we can say, mastering the poetic beauty of Tolstoy, if at all possible, but also keeping in pace with new economic and social concepts that should not come as a disturbing surprise. In other words, as Seleskovic puts it, passing from one language into another presupposes knowledge, translating sense, intent and tone, solicits intelligence. Follow Lewis Carroll, who said that take care of cultural references and concepts and moods and psychology, not of the mechanical transposition of words, and the words will come automatically. It is clear that the professions of translators and interpreters cannot be left in the hands of dilettantes, nor can their university master training programs. And I am proud to say, as vice here, that Skid-Herzen, taking the lead in Russia, opted from the start for quality and talented young people, not for quantity, opting for minds open for lifelong learning. Eager to learn about the past, maybe some pictures can be shown, knowing that the Tower of Babel came to an end due to language confusion. That in Delft, Greece, a priest had to translate for the people the mysterious words of the oracle, risking to be decapitated for wrong translation. that Colbert was asked to establish the first school for languages in Paris to train youngsters versatile enough to assist and interpret for the ambassadors of the French kings in the Orient, the so-called drogmen, as you know, to do business with the Sublime Gate. But also eager to learn about the present in a globalizing world, with its daily load of new concepts where quantitative easing and risk management criteria do not come as a surprise. If we are indeed thinking of employability, mobility, better functioning of the labor market, language knowledge or lack of language knowledge might be a hindrance, an obstacle in regional, national or international understanding and cooperation. Madame Fink-Hойер was perfectly clear in describing multilingualism as an asset, not a liability, into a smooth functioning of the Union united in difference. Languages can also be a barrier for development, a hindrance for peace and security. As Henri Tourneux, a specialist in African languages, and he is a director with the National Center for Scientific Research in Paris, as he wrote in his book and pleaded to introduce in all training programs the notion of linguistics of development. I think we could discuss that in one of the panels. Avoiding, as it happened in Mali, that well-intentioned development aid to sustain family planning, coming from France and written in French, of course, was rejected by the people living far away from the capital, Bamako, because in that immense region of Africa, they only understand Pearl language, one of the 2,500 different African tongues. I witnessed it myself writing an analysis, a study for the United Nations in 2008 and 2009, on the needs for training translators and interpreters in this immense continent, prone to disaster and humanitarian drama, exacerbated by the lack of understanding and communication, withholding security and fair trial, jeopardizing projects coming from the West, but written in a language local people do not understand in courts, local people not understanding indeed one of the former languages of the colonies. We should ask indeed ourselves what would be the cost of non-multilingualism. A study done by the high-level group on multilingualism at the European Commission in 2010 revealed that for UK alone, United Kingdom, the small and medium-sized enterprises lost up to 17% of business for not having read tenders written in a foreign language, for late translation or faulty text, etc., etc. So, yes, languages should be taken seriously, as I said in the beginning, and actually they are. There is a language industry in Europe. As a Commission study revealed in 2015, involving pure translation, but also proofreading activities, editing, film dubbing, conference interpreting, community interpreting, more and more important those days, multilingual video conferences, etc., etc., with a total turnover of 10.3 billion euros. Ladies and gentlemen, will these professions disappear because new technologies, because too costly, as some say? Will they be replaced by machines or by a tsunami of artificial intelligence? Machine translation, sometimes called automatic translation, often confused with machine-assisted translation processes, has evolved from highly resources-consuming, rule-based technologies to statistical and hybrid models. Now, I'm not an expert in all these. You are. I read the program, and probably we will have a nice discussion on all these in the coming days. But from what I read in the papers and in the research work, translating from, say, German into Dutch or vice versa is easier than doing it from Chinese into Russian. So, just to quote that one. The machine translation of structured documents, news articles, official or legal standardized texts normally produce better output than the less standardized papers or literature. We all know Google Translate, probably tried it, but there is far more on the market. You have Asia Online, OpenTrad, WordLingo, and so on, sometimes offering up to 90% of accuracy in some cases. So clearly, we should not ignore these developments. They bring general information. Companies want to have a quick translation and wouldn't bother about here or there an error, and the productivity can be enhanced, as we all know. We are far away from the first tries in the 70s when the French quote from the sacred books, and probably you know this, put into the machine, namely the spirit is prompt, but the flesh is weak, came out as the whiskey is good, but the steak is bad. That was the 70s. We're far away from that one. So all in all, I think we should not forget about the new technologies and put them also in our training programs. As for the spoken word, voice recognition is there indeed. It was quoted, and the colleagues, interpreters should take that into account and go in an analytical study on all this, but I do not see anytime soon President Mitterrand listening to a robot in a booth somewhere translating Mrs. Thatcher's statement, "I want my money back." It's not for tomorrow, but there are progress. It is progress made. A friend of me in Karlsruhe, Professor Weibel, showed me results in automatic interpreting that blew off my head for astonishment. I will stop here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I come to an end. I tried to answer 3 questions, 4 too short. Are languages important? What is the quality of language mediator, and where do we find them? Is there room for a language industry? And the answer to all these is yes, yes, yes. Avoid uniformity, it has been said, you could say, avoiding McDonaldization in a sense. Forwarding words and ideas, we have that. Language, and this is very dear to my heart, language to make superb literature known to the world for languages that we do not understand. Once upon a time, William Faulkner was asked to name 3 best novels of all times he read in translation. And he cited the book Dostoevsky, himself described as flawless, Anna Karenina, Anna Karenina, Anna Karenina. Your Yuri Gagarin asked to read Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea in translation before he left off into the space. But that is probably a legend, I don't know. Personally speaking, I needed excellent translation, the lingua franca of the future, as Umberto Eco says, so there is room for work for the youngsters. To read and learn more about your Dostoevsky's, Turgenev's, Tolstoy's, and so will it be in the future. Here is the proof. At 2 o'clock in the morning, he returned to his room. He sent his servant away, who had led the counters, settled in an armchair next to the chimney, and covered his face with both hands. Never had he felt so tired, physically and mentally. The whole evening had he spent in company with charming ladies and intelligent men. He started to think slowly, very slowly, in bitterness. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the first sentences of Ivan Turgenev's book, Torrents of Spring, I read in Dutch during my spleen period at home. My mother tongue is Dutch. It was in the 50s, and it was my first introduction through translation into the world of Russian literature, into the Russian culture, into the Russian soul. Thank you very much.